facing that direction, you can see the beginning of Herod's breakwater going into the water. It's got a sort of a structure in the middle of it that has an Israeli flag blowing on top. You can see that that structure is built on the remains of the tower. And that is the remains of Herod's light tower, which, by the way, as part of his loyalty to Caesar Augustus, he names the Jerusalem Tower, named after one of Herod's sons. Now it goes, you're seeing a fourth of the length of it. It was 4 times as long. By the way, from aerial shots, you can totally see the whole rest of it is still there under the water. And what they did was they built these huge, like, wooden crates. Think of them as huge wooden crates. He imported a huge amount of volcanic ash from Santorini in Greece, a very active volcanic region. Puts that volcanic ash into a crate, a wooden crate, sails it into the water almost like a ship, mixes water into it. The whole thing hardens and settles, and now I've got a huge concrete boulder under the water. Then another wooden crate, more volcanic ash, water, mixes, settles right by it. And so he creates, get this, 1,500 feet long, but 180 feet wide breakwaters going into the water. Why so wide? Because he wants to have shops on the breakwater. Why? Think of it. He's creating a city. It never existed. He's creating a city out of nothing. It better be built with all the financial stuff that will attract people to it to help the city become financially viable. He knows that if he builds a nice enough city with a hippodrome, with a theater, with amphitheaters, with all the amenities, a modern port, shopping, with all kind of modern stuff being sold there, which he can import from Europe, then he can attract people to the city. He also knows that there's a nation called the Nabateans, who are merchants. They're Arab merchants. He knows, of course, his mother is Nabatean. She's a Nabatean princess. And he knows that they buy merchandise for very cheap in Yemen, in Arabia, bring it through the Middle East on convoys of camels, sometimes, by the way, up to 1,000 camels long, board them onto ships in the ports of Jaffa or Gaza, and they sail them to Rome, and they sell them at an exorbitant price, and they make a huge turnaround, and they were very wealthy. And you may know the Nabatean capital city of Petra, an amazing, very amazing, stunning city. Now he knows if he builds a nice enough city with all the amenities, with a nice enough modern port, he can attract them to come through his city and load all their ships here, and then he can charge them customs for all the merchandise that comes through here. He's proving that he was more Jewish than we really gave him credit for. Now, not only that, he knows that ships have to dock somewhere for the whole winter because the Mediterranean Sea, until the 20th century basically, you can't sail in winter. It's too crazy. It can become very stormy. If you remember the Acts of the Apostles, the journeys of Paul, every now and again he has to stay somewhere for the whole winter because winter set in. It's too risky. He just has to stay somewhere. Every now and again there's a captain who thinks he can beat the system, and then they get shipwrecked. And by the way, Paul shows you at that point that he absolutely demonstrates that you do not stop being Jewish just because you believe in Jesus. You can be every bit as Jewish when you believe in Jesus, because Paul, to talk about his suffering. Oh, you think you've suffered? I've suffered more. And he loves giving lists. He's like a Polish Jewish woman. He loves giving a list of his suffering. I've been shipwrecked 5 times. I've been stoned to death. I've been left to starve. I've been flogged. I've been buried. I've been this. I've been that. Oh, have I suffered? But I suffer in silence. I don't talk about it. He also loves to say, he proves to you that although he's such an evangelist, he's so Jewish, he loves to say, I don't want to boast. But if I wanted to boast, I would say this. 3 chapters, you think you're smart, I'm smarter, you think you're educated, I'm more educated, I studied under this rabbi, I did this, I did that, but I don't want to boast, so I don't talk about it. It shows you how Jewish he is. Now, Herod knows, that was just a side note, but Herod knows that you can't sail the Mediterranean Sea, you have to choose somewhere to be for the winter. He builds a good enough city with all the fun stuff to pass time, with a good enough port. He can get the Nabateans to dock their ships here all winter. Then he can charge them docking fees. People in the city will have to sell, the staff on the ships will have to have somewhere to live, so they have to rent rooms from the people of the city, which can make money, the people can make money. They need to eat, they're going to buy food from people in the city, they're going to be bored, they're going to buy tickets to shows and all this kind of stuff. So he's actually creating income for the city. Now, 1,500 feet long, 180 feet wide, we just talked about the storms. If it's going to be, you're going to have all these shops, and you're attracting all the tourists to come on the breakwaters and go deep into the Mediterranean Sea. But if it's going to be a storm and there's going to be these huge waves, and trust me, I've been here where there's big waves. Last winter I was here once, the whole Hipodrome was one big lake. The water just totally flooded in. We couldn't go into the palace, by the way. you've got all these people on the breakwaters, but there's going to be these huge waves coming in during a storm. It's going to scare the tourists away. It's going to damage the splash. It's going to damage your merchandise. Not good. Big problem. Unless your name is Herod again. He, get this, imports more volcanic ash from Santorini, builds more wooden crates, these huge crates, puts the volcanic ash into them, mixes them with water, and sinks them into the water just outside the walls of the port. So if this is like one of the breakwaters, he has these boulders just a little bit of a distance from them, all the way around the port, and they only come up to just about the water surface. They don't have to come beyond the water surface, they have to be just there. You don't even have to see them, but they're there. When winter rolls in and there's some sort of storm going in, there's big waves. What is a wave? It's a big round body of water rolling its way towards the shore. It comes, you can see a big swell making its way towards the port. It looks like, oh my God, it's going to crash, there's going to be a huge splash. And then the bottom of the wave hits those boulders, which Herod has planted under the water. The momentum, the wave is broken, the momentum is broken, and the water's just lapped gently. It's a big swell until it hits them, and then it breaks and it laps gently along the walls of his port, and life, shopping, everything can go on as normal. I mean, it's amazing, but again, Herod is not called Herod the Great for nothing. Yes, he was a psycho. Yes, he was completely mad. He was dangerous. He was paranoid. He was unscrupulous, but he was a complete genius when it came to building. Now, I like to think that when he's on his deathbed, a while after he sent all those people to kill the babies in Bethlehem because of those unwise men who came to him and said, "Where is the newborn king of the Jews?" Not from your family, a different family. We've seen his star, we've come to worship him. And of course, Herod gives the order to kill all the kids around Bethlehem. I like to think that he's on his deathbed because he dies very soon after Jesus is born. And God comes to him and says, "Herod, I just want to say, amazing, amazing. People will rant about you for centuries, for millennia to come. All your buildings, all your construction, all your success in defying nature, redesigning. We take our hat off to you. You will be known as the greatest builder this nation has ever known, this land has ever known. And I want to thank you very much for the amazing city of Caesarea and the incredible, the world's first artificial port, which you built so amazingly. Incredible. By the way, my son that you tried to, he's fine. Don't worry, he's in Egypt. You're going to kick the bucket in about half an hour and I'm going to have him brought back. I just wanted to thank you for all those ritual baths by the southern steps in Jerusalem, which are being used, by the way, very soon for baptism of 5,000 men when they convert to faith in my son. And they just slip down into those ritual baths. And I want to thank you for this incredible port, because I'm going to have a guy called Saul. I'm going to change his name to Paul. And he's going to take the gospel of my son, which you didn't manage to kill, and he's going to sail it into Rome. And he's going to spread it to all these Romans that you so much love, until the Roman Empire itself figures you can't beat them, join them. And they're all going to become official Christians, believers in my son. And with that thought, Herod, feel free to kick the bucket. And it's actually Herod's port in Caesarea that, unbewitting, Herod lays the foundations, both in that big ritual bath complex at the southern steps, and in this nature-defying world's first artificial port, a complete triumph architecturally. He's unwittingly prepared everything for the spreading of the gospel of this baby, which in just a few years he's going to try and kill unsuccessfully, and it's just going to take off from here. And we know Paul left for at least one of his missionary journeys from the port in Caesarea. We also know, by the way, that Paul was incarcerated for 2 years, and right by the palace is where we believe he was incarcerated, before he sailed off for his final journey to Rome to be tried by the emperor, by Caesar. And basically, for sure, other evangelists would have used the port here to sail the gospel to other countries. Incidentally, at the very end of the palace, just where the oval side here comes into the Hippodrome, is where they have an area that they believe is the Praetorium, the prison in the jail. The prison in the palace, where they would keep important prisoners. And we know that Paul was kept here for 2 years. We know that every now and again, Felix, remember Felix, all these people were in the history of this place. And Paul was an important prisoner. He was not consulted, but they wanted to hear what he has to say. Agrippa, they're all coming through here, and I believe, think of it, this is the Hippodrome. This is where they have the chariot races. Ignore that little garden where the guy is standing. That didn't exist in the time of Herod. It didn't exist in the time of Paul. This is, think of the movie Ben-Hur, where they have the chariot race. They blow out of them at the northern end over there. They do 7 times around the central aisle. You can just see the basis of the 7 of the central aisle. And that is one of the things they have here. Now, let's face it, from everything we know about Paul, he wasn't exactly an athlete. I think it's his time here at the Hippodrome where he has a window, front seat view to all these athletic competitions that took here, to the chariot races that affect his ministry, because he many times equates the faith, the walk of faith to a race, and he says, I'm like an athlete. I set my eyes on the goal before me, I don't carry weights, and he basically equates it to the race of an athlete. And I think it's his 2 years here in Caesarea which impressed upon him these kind of things, because he really does use that. And incidentally, the place here was used for the inauguration festivities as well. And there's something else that Herod affected our culture with, which we probably don't realize. In the year 9 BC, when he is ready with the city he wants to inaugurate it, an integral part of festivities in the Greco-Roman culture is athletic competitions. He invites athletes from Europe to take place in these celebrations, which would have athletic competitions held in the Hippodrome of Caesarea. At the time, you only won or didn't win. And so it's not such a great proposition for the European athletes to board a ship, sail all across to the godforsaken Middle East for the small chance that you may win. And Herod sees he's not going to have much of a turnout. He puts his brain in gear again, gets this concept, and decides to do it, and he publicizes that in the athletic competitions at the inauguration festivities of Caesarea, for the first time ever, there's going to be first, second, and third places to be won. And then, once the European athletes hear this, they realize they've tripled their chance of becoming famous. Even if they only come third, they've already made a name for themselves. It's worth it. They board the ships. The inauguration festivities are a great success. And today we take it for granted that there's going to be first, second, third place. We don't realize it started with Herod at the inauguration in the Hippodrome here. Incidentally, notice that they don't have tiles like they did in the theater. They have sand. And that's, of course, because the chariots are going to come at top speed around the end. By the way, the VIPs apparently used to like to sit at the end here, because that's where the chariots come at top speed, and that's where there's a lot more crashes, a lot more bloodshed, and the Roman culture likes to see that kind of stuff, unfortunately, as long as it's not them being injured. But they're also they are very cultured. They don't just like chariot races, they like wholesome family style entertainment, like a good old gladiator war, with an animal ripping a person to bits, and they don't want to mop up the blood. So they don't have tiles, they have arena, sand in Latin. The sand can lap up the blood, the animal can eat what's left of the person, and now that they've worked up an appetite, they can just go home. It's been another good day in the Roman Empire. This is, believe it or not, in short, the story of Caesarea, which later on becomes a Byzantine city, after that a Muslim city, then the Crusaders take it over, and then the second Muslim invasion led by Baibars in 1265 completely erases the city, razes it to the ground, and it's only rediscovered in the 20th century. Bathrooms?
Yeah.
How much time do we have before we need to leave?
I think 4:30.